It's the next morning, and we shall see how well it all went together without too much mess and fuss. Came apart nicely there. And nicely lined up. Nice fair line down these edges. Nothing has been sort of torqued, twisted. And comes off of that wax paper just beautifully. So that's 6 panels done. So we're going to just set up the table again and do some more panels. Second glue up here is the bottom panel, which will form the basis of the hull. And what are those? Oh, those over there. Some sort of section on the inside, longitudinal trunk box area. Anyways, other than putting the puzzle joints together, got to run some epoxy, thickened epoxy down the center line here. So I am kind of curious to know why they haven't cut a puzzle joint down this edge, because spreading thickened epoxy onto a 1/4 of an inch edge here, yeah, it's a bit messy, but it doesn't need much. We just gotta get it to hold together until fiberglassing. And then what will line it all up properly will be the puzzle joint on the bow section here. So, question is, how to hold these 2 panels tightly together. Suppose I put some weight on it and then run a couple of clamps across. But I'm just making sure I'm forcing enough resin down into the crack beforehand. And we shall see once I put a couple of clamps on there whether that's enough to come squeezing out. And then I'll put a piece of wax paper over the top. I think I'm just going to slide this down a bit because the ends down there, the 2 halves, are not lining up nicely. Down there, I can put my, actually maybe this way it's stiffer. Some weight on there. Just need some weight to hold these down whilst I clamp them together. Because I can't clamp too much because then they'll just kind of buckle. That clamp and then weight on. That's going to work. I just definitely see epoxy coming out in there. And then we have here, these will be the support stands that the hull will sit in as I stitch the planking together. So we're just going to take the excess here. Nothing has to be terribly pretty. We'll just run a bit of a fillet corner bead in there to hold these pieces together. So it's not going to be under that much stress or strain. Okay, they don't need to be terribly pretty. Just going to put them down on the table, make sure they are all down flat. And if I don't have enough resin here to finish off both bow and stern, it's not going to be an issue because I will be mixing up a couple more batches of this thickened epoxy over the course of time. So there will be ample opportunity to add some more. Alright, I think that's going to suffice for now. Suffice, not suffice. Nothing really sort of pulled up off the table. Maybe that is there. Put one over there, some weight over there. Because I can actually clamp this down, hold it flat. So we use the weight mostly on the other side, hold that side down. Alright, another batch left overnight. Following yesterday's glue up, today we're going to tackle gluing up the transom. Now the transom has three pieces. There's the doubler, which sort of is the inside face, additional reinforcement. There is actually a piece of foam that's going to go in there, and then the full transom over top of that. They do have some holes in here to help line up. But the first thing I'm going to do here is to brush on some resin to all this surface. Now on this particular one, I'm assuming the best way to do this is have the labeling that is engraved into the plywood on the inside surface. So we don't have to contend with trying what to do with the look of all this lettering on the boat. Anyways, I'm just going to give it a very light brush here, and I'm going to add some thickened epoxy, lines up with some dowels through some holes, and then clamp it all down the table and make sure nothing is moving. Once we get epoxy all onto here, it gets kind of slippery. Plywood doesn't seem to soak up as much as sort of a solid wood, certainly not a softwood like cedar. But we want to make sure there's good coverage over the whole piece before adding some thickened. So I'm going to go, and this will be the piece that is going to go over top of it. but I'm not really sure where to apply epoxy on that, so I will apply it to the foam piece. Now I suppose on a piece like this I could use West System Resin 205 hardener, faster curing, but I'm really not sure, what's going to be visible done with the amine blush and all. So I'm going to stick with the 207 special coating, clear coating, for most of the glue ups, just in case. So I've got 2 pumps in here, 2 good heaping tablespoons of 404 high density filler, West System. I used to use a lot of silica fillers, fumed silica, but I'm kind of shying and staying away from any of that anymore in the shop. There are other products such as this one that work just fine as a thickening, high density filler, adhesive bonding filler, versus having the silica in the shop. So, maybe just a tad bit more. I really only use 2 or 3 different fillers. I know West System makes a whole array of products, but I generally have one high density filler, which is the 404, a low density filler, so used as a fairing compound, easy to sand, and then I have a filleting blend. Now I know you can mix your own filleting blends, a couple of books on that. There was it Russell Brown has got the Epoxy Basics books, and he has his own formula. The only issue I have with that is, if you're mixing up different batches and you get different colors, and you've got different fillets in the same boat, I wasn't too happy with having fillets that were a slight variety of colors between sort of maybe in the hull or filleting in a different area. So I'm generally stick now to just the West System filleting blend. I know I'm going to get a pretty consistent color throughout different batches. So I'm just brushing it on here. It's going to be not a lot of clamping pressure, but some weight on here. So I don't need a real thick coat, I don't believe. And then I might just use a small notch trowel just to make sure I have a fairly even coat everywhere. Might be hard to see on the camera, but I'm getting sort of an even spread here with the trowel notch. Then we put down the foam core, I suppose one would call it, with the holes facing up, because the dowels from the full transom will align into those holes. And I see, just in case, I got a little bit of wood shaving in there, which may prohibit laying flat. And then I'm going to brush more onto this surface. Not as easy to spread, it's not a smooth surface. Hopefully I can move it around with my trowel, or I'll have to mix up some more. I don't really know how much the foam is actually going to absorb. I mean, it seems to be a closed cell, dense foam of some sort. Okay, I think we're going to have to need another batch because I still got the deck doubler to do as well. There's no point in mixing up too much resin, this just gets wasted. Not that in a couple of shots out of the pumps is very expensive, but in total, epoxy is not all that inexpensive. Try not to waste as little as possible. Giving it a good stir always before adding any fillers. Making sure that the hardener and resin are mixed properly before being bound up with the fillers. So 2 pumps. Again, I'm going to go 2 heaping tablespoons here, maybe a bit more, and stir it well. I know if I guess it was large batches, one could get out a stir mixing implement on a drill, but especially with the fillers, the stuff just starts flying everywhere. So I start off nice and slow, trying not to have the stuff just wafting up into the air here. And then once it kind of gets stuck in the epoxy, so to speak, stuck in the resin as a lump, tapping it down off the sides, I'll start to stir a little more vigorously, so I don't have to worry about it being kicked up out of the container. Now I know I've had some people comment in comment sections and other builders saying, why are you using these plastic beer cups that have the ridges in them? Are you not worried about, hardener being stuck in the ridges and not getting a good stir? And I can say that after 20 years of doing this with these cups, I've never had a batch of epoxy not kick off from this mixing implement. So we just move that aside. Don't want to knock it over with my elbow. Put the lid on. So on the doubler piece, I have the writing facing up, and on the full transom, I'll have the writing facing down. Anything that squeezes out, they'll be able to trim flush, either by hand sanding or even with a laminate trimmer with a flush cutting bit. Just going to move this down. It's overhanging the end there a bit, and I want to make sure I've got wax paper under all the sections. See how that does now as far as being able to spread it properly. My guess is I haven't even read that far in the manual, but that there'll be a fillet through here when these pieces are done to cover up, because I'm not really sure, you want to really be seeing the white foam as a core in the transom itself. But I certainly want to make sure there's enough resin going to squeeze out to the edge that we don't have any gaps in there for water ingress. Should lay down on top. And we should be able to line up the dowel holes pretty close. Whoops, wrong way. That was close. Didn't get too much resin on there. So the dowels don't actually go right through the 3 pieces. There's a hole there, hole there, hole there. Finding the hole. And then we need to weight it down. Now on the edges here, I just slide this close to the edges. I can just clamp them down. take that a bit more and go through the hole here. And I can reach into here. So the question is, there's nothing really stopping the foam from sliding on the lower piece. So it's constantly looking at this and checking edges to see that they are in fact lined up. And since we actually can't see that, and I could have, I'm assuming that if all the edges line up here, that the center piece would be lined up down there. So you see all these dirty fingers, we're getting these fingerprints everywhere. We'll try to clean them off with some alcohol or whatever. Might have been worthwhile to actually glue the foam on individually and then flip it over and attach the doubler piece, the inside of the transom. Because looking down, it looks to me like this bottom piece is sticking out a little bit, but on the other end, if one was to take a straight edge through here, it's hard to tell. Because we are assuming that, the customer's going to want the bright work on the transom here. And it's very thin veneer ply to be sanding off fingerprints. So we're going to do our best to get rid of them now. Alright, let's do some more weight. Actually, gonna need that over there. Oh no, maybe not. Put that there. Maybe go the other way here. I want to make sure that corner's down and that corner is down. And I'll put this weight in the middle here. If we just put the board across here and clamp it down and apply some pressure. Okay, these ones are pretty straightforward. We just need a little bit of thickened epoxy pushed down into there. And here. And the weight in the middle. So I'm just looking very carefully where the foam is situated, trying to determine that it is centered. It looks to be, the foam isn't exactly the right size of the plywood, the doubler. If the top edge back here is lined up nicely and on the ends, then this portion down here should be centered. Now on the deck doubler here that I've just put down here, they've given us a temporary spacer so that these two pieces here are equally spread out when gluing the two ends together there so they're not crooked. Alright, well that's going to be another day of gluing up some parts, waiting for epoxy to cure. Well, I think that's all I got time for in this episode. I got all the panels done, they've been removed from the table, and you can see over here I am working now on the large deck, the seating area inside the boat. That'll be in the next episode, so if you like this episode, please do give me a thumbs up or become a subscriber, and we'll see you next time.